Mr. Darko Beats.
Welcome in New York. Welcome back to the Post 90 podcast. This is episode 152, coming to you after another bit of a tough game. I think we would ultimately call it one that, much like Miami, we went into not expecting much and unfortunately ended up with nothing in this case. LAFC is always a tough game, and kind of the issues from last season of us being unable to close games out for one reason or another is kind of rearing its head again, even underneath Pascal. So that's something that we'll have to rope in. But man, it was a brutal 80 minutes just to sit and watch, to see them kind of score a goal on what really felt sort of like a broken play, ball bouncing around the box. And then, at that point, the momentum of the crowd that LAFC has and all the emotions kind of willed them to end it that way.
And it's just overall, it sucks because both of these games we're kind of going into it, like you said, not really expecting much. We know that it's a tough way to start a season. So we really weren't going into the games expecting much, but the games themselves actually were the thing that gave us hope. And so, to have really rough late game defending that leads to 4 points going away from us is tough. Definitely hard to swallow.
And it kind of started off with bad vibes too. Thiago is not in the lineup, but we do get Tavon back sort of as a pillar of hope on that right side in terms of our attack moving forward, and hoping that he can add a little bit extra that we didn't see from Micha in the first game, but that we saw a ton from Tavon last season. And he obviously goes down super early, like within 5-10 minutes.
Within 10 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, and when you have a vibes guy like that goes down, and obviously somebody that's as integral, I think, to the 11 as Tavon is set to be this season and was last season, it kind of puts a damper on things early. So it seems like it's going to be a Lennox show for the early season. The kid's obviously full of confidence coming off of everything that happened in Miami, so it remains to be seen how that'll pan out with him.
It's tough too because he was kind of thrust into the lineup after not expecting really probably playing the game. You probably expect Tavon to go at least 60, 65 coming off of the injury. But obviously gets thrown in there, and I think it kind of threw off his game because I don't think he was at the same level that he was necessarily against Miami. But yeah, it's a tough blow for Tavon because he's just getting back. Hopefully it's not something that keeps him out too long, but it kind of seemed like one of those moments where he started playing on whatever the injury was and was like, oh shit, no, I actually can't do this, and this is actually way more intense than I thought it was. So we're hoping, keep him in our thoughts and hope that he comes back soon.
And I think in general, the 11 was kind of an interesting one when it dropped. The first thing that we talked about was that for whatever reason, we decided to switch it up from what we had last game. Alonso gets shifted out to that left wing, but Baki's up top, and it feels like there's some fluidity there. Like Baki was certainly on the left at times. And then again, you kind of roll with Tana Sahevic. We had come on here and said we felt like Pascal had seen enough Tana ball to know that he is not necessarily a plugger of holes that you want to ever have to resort to at any point in a season. And yeah, he sits in that lineup, and then instead of Hack kind of filling back a role there, he's sitting in that Sands role again. And it felt a little weird to see the lineup as mixed up as it was from the first game. Like I thought we would just be rolling same 11 for like the first 5 to 6 weeks barring injuries.
Which I guess we kind of coped ourselves into thinking that because we were like, okay, it's not Nick anymore. There's not going to be massive tinkering. But I think ultimately with some of the decisions like fitness and getting people involved kind of came up on top rather than just trying to stick with what was like a pretty random lineup versus Miami. Mm-hmm. Tana, I don't know if you have really thoughts on Tana, but I thought he did pretty good for, he stayed out of trouble, didn't really cost us too much on any really defending plays. I thought it was a redeeming performance for him.
Do you think it's just a bit of Pascal wanting to get to know the players that he has at his disposal earlier in the season, even if that's potentially at the expense of results?
Maybe, but I also think he may have looked at the Miami game and thought, we were lacking in this area, we were lacking in that area, specifically in the attack, we probably could have scored more goals against Miami. We should have, realistically. I mean, a man down. He probably looked at that and was like, okay, Mounsef is not a proven goal scorer here, but in training, we know that he is R9. Like, he is a GOAT in training. So if he's looking from his perspective, like, here's a guy that has the potential to bring us goals, can't really take Alonso off the field, and let's just try to get as many people involved as possible.
I guess that's what you have to do, especially in an attack like ours. I know it's still a bit silent on the right side coming from Hannes. That's going to be something that has to be figured out at some point. Maxi kind of pulled the same move he did in Miami, where he comes out a little bit early, making way for the likes of Parejas and other guys that come into our midfield. So that's going to be something that Pascal probably has to shore up immediately and as soon as possible, is just our attack in general, because it does feel like from a defensive perspective, granted giving up 3 goals in 2 games, but each kind of had their own unique situations, and we had been kind of solid, at least amongst the run of play for these 200 minutes of soccer that we've played so far, just from a defensive perspective, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just honing in on, whatever behaviors or traits or decisions that are being made that are leading to these late goals, because it's two games in a row now out of 2 that we have kind of this late game stab in the heart type of goal. And I personally don't really know how you fix that. That's why they pay him the big bucks to do it. I don't envy that job at all, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get guys as tired as possible in training and then put them in similar situations. How do you really truly ever drill that? That's a difficult thing.
It's a mindset thing too.
Yeah.
It's beyond physicality. There is something to be said about making sure that you have 11 players or 15 players that can put in a shift for 90 minutes. It seems like we probably aren't at that point yet. It is early in the season, to be fair. People obviously have to work up to that fitness level, but I think the mentality part is going to be harder to overcome than the physicality part.
Yeah. I think there's guys who wanted to go longer than they did. Like Maxi looked pissed when he came off. Not pissed, but he looked confused by the decision to bring him off, I guess, as early as he did get taken off, which, of course, any aging player is going to have more confidence in themselves than maybe they actually have left in the tank. But I think he probably had another 10, 15 minutes at least of hard ball. And you see, when we take Maxi out of games, we lose so much control in that midfield that it's almost hard to recover from. And that could also be a reason why we're, ending these games and getting scored on late, because we're just losing possession too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the case. And with Maxi, it's probably going to be a tightrope walk this season for Pascal in saving the man from himself in Maxi, because if he wants to go the full game or go an extra 10 or 20 every week, that adds up over time, just the mileage that you're putting on the legs and, the knee that previously was injured, that's probably going to be something that we see a lot, is Maxi wanting to continue to fight out there, and us, I guess, just keeping it safe instead of being sorry, if something horrible is to happen. So
yeah, I mean, my question to you would be, would you prefer having Maxi for the first 60, 65, or would you prefer just the second half sub, full 45, 50 maybe with stoppage time of Maxi ball?
I think you'd prefer to have him at the end, right? Because you're trying to close things out, that kind of general on the field, especially in these games where it feels like we're up against the wall, even if we're down a man like Miami. Just having somebody out there that can kind of keep a cool head amongst a lot of these young kids that we have out there can be probably a calming presence for everybody. So I feel like it'd be weird if we sub Maxi in every game at the 30th minute. You kind of have to really do it after halftime.
It would have to be after half.
At that point, you're losing 20 to 30 minutes of Maxi, which makes it tough. But if I had to have him at the start of the end, I'm taking him at the end, because that's when we need it, apparently. Evidently.
Yeah, I just think that late we're getting killed by our lack of the ability to hold the ball. We're getting into these big, stretched out runs of play. It's ultimately ending in a goal in our net. So, yeah, I thought it's interesting. I'd be interested to see what other people think about that aspect because clearly Maxi wants to play more, but if you can get 45 to 50 quality minutes as opposed to 45 plus 15 to 20 where he's kind of laboring and falling off, like I would probably prefer the 45 of strong Maxi to close out a game. Mm-hmm. And we saw that last season he could turn into a catalyst at the end of the game. And how many games did he win us, or at least bring us back into last season? So yeah.
And is there, I guess then, who fills that role for the first half of games?
That's the tough part.
Who can we lean on?
Perea isn't fit enough to do it yet. Mm-hmm. We know that much. Maximo's a child,
right?
So like, who can really do that? That's such a tough.
That's the issue right now. Like that
tough position to be in.
That is the issue in the team.
But it's almost like if we had known that we were losing a guy that would do that, then maybe we might be in the market for a guy to replace him.
Yeah, and I mean,
I don't know.
Pascal's
it could be crazy.
First question answered after the LAFC game from the media was about bringing in players, which is super relevant at this point. We've made no signings. That infamous graph of all team spendings, and I think we're sat at the bottom with Toronto. Neither of us have spent a dime, not a penny, which is not something you love to see. As one of the league can't love to see it as one of the largest. I think the largest market in the nation, for sports.
Yeah.
So that has to change soon. And Pascal alluded to the fact that it's not fully on him. It actually seems like it's more so of a David Lee thing. And although Pascal's, I think, judgment and what he wants to do with his team and tactics is respected and considered, that obviously what we've noticed as fans is it's kind of like finding and picking players and bringing them in that we feel we can develop and get some kind of cash for in the future.
Or bring to one of the mother clubs.
Right. And then it's like, whoever the manager of the season or seasons are, we got you this nice piece. We don't know whether or not he fits or if you like him, but you have to find a way to make him work. So I don't know. I mean, we're still kind of rumorless. I know Juan Carlos did a little rumor breaking. He put on his NYCFC source hat, floated a name out there. But as it stands, there's nothing that even feels concrete or even likely to happen.
No, because even the Santi news, we pretty much knew, but it wasn't confirmed. We have nothing even close to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's not too much else to talk about with regards to that game specifically. Obviously, we're looking forward to Orlando at home. We're both going to be there. Looking to be a nice day. It sucks that it's at 7:30. I wish it would be an afternoon game, but that's the me that's approaching 30 talking. But yeah, no, we're excited, and I think we're going to get into something else if you wanted to
some over-unders.
Yeah.
It seems like it's about time for the annual over-unders. Blue City finally got around and dropped their episode, so shout out to them. We like to take a reactor role from this standpoint. I think 3 or 4 years ago we set our own lines. We realized we are not Vegas employees. It's much easier to allow the professionals that are Mike and JR and Trey to kind of go out there and set their lines with the knowledge, the 10-year, the decade-long knowledge that they've created around this club. So I think we're going to play some snippets from their episode like we did last year, and then we'll share our thoughts on each line and whether we think it's going to go over or under.
Yeah.
All right, so first line, both Blue Balls and Blue City talked a little bit about Alonso and what he's going to contribute to the team this year, so we'll let them go and share their lines.
Alonso Martinez goals. I am going to set the line at 16.5.
And then we have Blue City.
My line is Alonso Martinez's total goal contributions. That's goals and assists. Let's set the line at 24.
24 goals and assists. So Blue City Radio did goals and assists combined, and Blue Balls did just goals. So we've got 16 and a half goals and goals and assists up at 24.
The 16 and a half goals is a tough line because you're essentially, the real question there is he going to be as good as he was last season, yes or no? And for me personally, he's got to be. Everything screams that he should be. We talked about it in our run of episodes leading up to the kickoff of the season, that full preseason, full confidence of a manager, starting games now as opposed to, Alonso only really started after Malachi got hurt. So all of those things combined, he should realistically be hitting the equal to last year, if not a little bit more. So I'd have to go over.
Over 16 and a half goals.
Yeah, and for goals and assists combined, I feel like he really doesn't get that many assists, so I'm going to hit the under on that one.
Under. So that would put him at, what do you think if you had to pin an exact number on the goals?
Goals.
He had 17 last season.
I would say I could see him hitting the 20 mark.
20. And then he'd have 3 assists or less.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's pretty realistic.
I think I lean the same way. Although I'll go over on the goals and assists combined. So I'll say over on the goals and assists combined. I do think Alonso, he probably nets out 20 or 21 goals, where really at that point in the golden boot conversation, I know we have some prolific strikers that have entered the league, but that's where he has to be. Like at this point, if we're looking at goal scorers on our team, like he's the only guy that's scoring goals on this team this year. So I'll go over.
Okay.
Over for both. So our next line in the same kind of thought was Blue Balls sharing a goals and assists line for Hannes.
The goals and assists for Hannes Wolf.
Yeah.
Let me set the line at, let's say he's short of a double-double, and let's say 18 and a half.
18 and a half for Hannes.
That's a little rich for my blood. That's a little rich. I don't feel that he's progressed from the 12 physically or
Mentally,
the eye test or anything. Like nothing from his play shows that he's going to hit that same tally. Granted, there was like that initial rough period where he really wasn't playing that well last season as well. And then he turned it on a little bit and then he fell off again. So maybe we see that and he hits that mark to a higher level, and maybe the coaching of Pascal gets him to a point where he's maintaining that level so he can hit the 18 mark. I don't see it right now. I don't see the confidence in his play. I'm going to have to hit the under. And I'm the first one to tell you I want to be proven wrong. I just don't see it.
If FanDuel was offering this line, I think I would consider putting a sizable amount of money on the under.
Das.
And I know I am the guy that shared my lineup for the season, and I wanted Hannes to be in that 10 role kind of out of a sense of necessity because I want him off the right wing so bad, and the investment that is in him, it feels like you need to find time for him somewhere, and the next logical standpoint would be filling in when Maxi's legs can't go, whether that's towards the end of the season or whatever, but I'm shocked that he even had 12 last season. That seems like he had half of that.
That seems really high.
Yeah, if I was to think of Hannes last year, I would tell you he had 8 goal contributions.
Yeah, and then still feel like you might be off a little bit.
Yeah, 6 is really...
6, I'd be like, yeah, he had 6.
That's what he had, yeah. So, maybe that says something that he overperformed what we felt like we actually saw, and that could be contributing to us kind of selling him short here, not believing in him. But if he needs a chip on his shoulder, I'll gladly be the chip.
Yeah.
If Hannes has over 18 goal contributions, then we're in 6th place or better, I think.
Yeah.
No doubt. Because then you would have to assume Alonso has more.
Right, because he's getting off of the assists.
So I'm going under. So next line, sticking with the goals and assists, we've got Blue Balls with
Maxi Morales goals and assists. Last year, we of course saw 6, 1 goal, 5 assists. I'm going to set the line at 11.5.
My gut reaction is the lines between Hannes and Maxi need to switch.
Right, yeah.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked. I would go over on a Maxi 17 and a half. So
I'd go over on a 15, 16.
So 11 and a half, it's free.
So yeah, 11,
it's free money.
11 seems like free money with him, playing more minutes. Problem is we haven't really seen open play, really great passing the way that we used to from him. Obviously, he has an assist on the season already. So 1 in 2 games, you're on pace.
Yeah,
he's on pace for
18, actually.
18, yeah. Hard to sit here and bet against him under those circumstances, but with more minutes, with pretty much holding and retaining the 10 position for the season, your 10 needs to have over 11 and a half.
They better.
Or you're fucked. You're done.
And I think back to too, when Maxi first came back in the summer last year, he immediately fed 3 assists to Alonso in that one game.
That one game. Right?
That one game, he fed 3 assists, and Alonso had the one of the fastest hat tricks in history. All 3 assists were pinged off from Maxi. So 11 and a half. It feels like free money, easy money.
Yeah.
So I'm going over there too.
That's something that you would look at pregame and be like, there's no way we don't take this, right?
Right.
Like, absolutely have to take it.
Yeah. And then you look at it post game.
Yeah, and you're like,
And you're
why did I do that?
Trey is a mastermind. Post game, that's what you're post
Yeah,
season.
when he finishes with 11, and we're all sitting here like, damn, we should have known.
So moving on to the next line, rolling with blue balls still, moving away from the attackers, looking at the back line, and obviously this is not a pure goalkeeper stat, and that's something we'll have to keep in mind, but clean sheets for the team.
Matt Freese. Matt Freese, clean sheets. Always a fun category. Was fun with Sean Johnson. So last year, Matt had a disappointing 5 clean sheets. And given that, I will say 7.5.
Exactly what they were talking about, which is it's not a goalkeeper specific stat. And the way that our team has been defending, specifically late in games, like I just don't see us holding on to, even if we had a 2-0 lead, that we're going to hold on to the clean sheet. If the line was set at 5, I'd probably be entertaining the under.
And I'm realizing, or I'm remembering, in the pre-production work of the show, that Blue Sea Radio also set a line for this.
Matt Freese shutouts. I'm going to set the line at 5.5.
Which is what you just said.
Yeah, which 5.5. I'm still entertaining the under at that point.
Under 5.5 too.
Yeah, because I don't think our defense is better this season. I think it's actually worse with the loss of James Sands. And so I would honestly go the under. And it's not against the team. I think that there could be 4-1 wins. There's going to be, 2-1 wins. There's going to be some 1-0s maybe. I just think that our team is not going to defend well enough to really help him in that regard. He's going to have a ton of saves. He's going to have a ton of highlight plays, but the clean sheets just aren't going to be there.
I think I'm going to split the difference between the two. Try to shoot for the sun here. Over 5.5 on Blue City, but under 7.5 for Blue Ball. So honestly, I think 6. I don't see 7. That just feels a bit too high. That feels Sean Johnson-ish. Although I think if I was to look at NYCFC history, I would prefer Freese over Johnson if you had to give me somebody in their prime right now. I don't know if that's just what comes to mind for me. And I don't know if there's emotions attached with that, with Sean leaving us and, Freese being the dog that he is. I'm living in the present is essentially what I'm alluding to, potentially, possibly. I think the jury is out. And I saw a lot of people making NYCFC 5-a-sides because they put up like all-time 5-a-side for the 10th anniversary event they held. And it was pretty unanimous across the board. Every single lineup had Sean at goalie.
Yeah, I could see why. He literally was one of the main reasons we won a championship.
Yeah,
that has to be
Terminator in the playoffs.
But I do feel Matt's ceiling is a lot higher. But I won't knock you off of you didn't answer over-under.
Yeah, in between.
In between?
So over 5.5, but under 7.5.
Okay.
So I'll stamp the number 6. I think it's 6. So switching more gears over to what the roster will look like in general. We have some lineups on how many appearances or minutes or starts some certain players will have. So we'll roll with Blue Balls first, speaking a little bit about Ojeda and Julian.
This line is combined Ojeda, Fernandez starts. Last year, Ojeda got 11 starts, Fernandez got 6 starts for a combined total of 17. Let's set it at 33.5.
33.5.
Starts.
And I thought combined meant like both of them on the field at the same time starting, but it does not. It means just their total numbers combined into one. I think it's tough, specifically because you have the dog Malachi coming behind him. And I feel as though it's not going to be, Malachi chomping at the bit to get an Ojeda spot. It's going to be Ojeda and Julian fighting for each other's spot on the right wing because Malachi, I believe, is going to come in and take that over. Like he's going to grab that probably.
Does have to be said that we have a little bit of inside baseball here because we've seen 2 games already. And I think between these 2 games for a possibility of 4 starts, right, because it'd be 2 for each of them, we only have 1 out of a possibility of 4 because Ojeda started that game against Miami. And we've seen Julian kind of used as a late game sub on that right side, honestly not coming as early as he deserves because of the performance that we've seen from Johannes. 33.5 is a good line. That feels like every game this season, one of them would have to start, essentially.
Give or take, one would have to start.
Yeah. And I don't think we're going to hit that.
I don't think so.
When you say it that way, every game this season, either Ojeda or Julian will have to start. I don't see that happening.
I don't either. Yeah, I'm going to have to hit the hard under.
Yeah, it feels like for whatever reason, Hannes is cemented in Pascal's mind on that right wing, and that can change, but it hasn't yet. And you're right. I mean, we talked about it in the whatever preseason episode it was. Like, that left wing is Mally's. Like, when he's back, I genuinely think he could be like the story of the team this season.
Right. In a positive way, whereas last season it was almost like the bad side is like once he was gone, it was like there's a lot of youth and pace down there that we were missing.
Yeah, and rolling with that same thought, Blue Balls did set a line for Malachi.
Malachi Jones starts. Okay. 17 and a half, 18 and a half starts.
Starts is crazy.
18 and a half starts for Malachi.
Oh, but no, that's not crazy because, well, I guess it is because it's depending on his health.
It really depends on when he comes back.
It's like, but you're betting, I would bet that he's back within a month from now, which would give him minus 6 games.
Yeah, 28 games-ish, 28 to 30 games.
I would have to bet the over, yeah. Because going based off of what we just said is that he's going to come in and take the role and never give it up, right? So that means every game starter from that point on.
Do you remember about when we lost him last season, like what month it was? I know it was earlier in the year. It was obviously against the Revs. I know we were at the game.
You might have been.
I think I was at the game. I can't remember exactly when it was, but he had 11 starts last year, and it feels like we lost him pretty early.
Right.
And for him to have already had 11 under his belt as a guy that was brand new to the team was a surprise. And really it was why the expectation for Malachi to turn into who we all want him to, like that's where that was birthed from.
Right.
The fact that he got so much time so quick. So 18 and a half, I hope for his sake, for our team's sake, that that's an over, and I do genuinely feel it will be one. It'll be an over.
And it almost seems like the obvious next step in what is his story of getting hurt, coming back, taking the position over and running with it and not looking back. So I hope with all my heart that that's an over.
Me too. So next one, and the last one related to our roster, we have a line from Blue City Radio.
The over-under is going to be Maximo Carrizo minutes in 2025. This will be regular season only. Mike, the line is set at 400 minutes.
400 minutes for Maximo Carrizo. And, that translates roughly to, what it'd be, just over 4 games, because 90 minutes a game, 4.5 games, or, a lot of 10 to 15-minute sub appearances. It would take...
That seems a little rich.
It would take like 30 10 to 20-minute sub appearances, and we're 2 games in and he hasn't left the bench yet. So
yeah, that would realistically mean like 30 or more appearances. Yeah,
it would be like if this was a question about Johnny Shore, I would probably smash the over.
Oh yeah,
at this point,
100%. Yeah, no, I would have to hit the under just because it seems like there's other people in line for minutes at the club, and he's there as an emergency, like pull the fire alarm, everything's going crazy type of player. He's not necessarily going to be playing a ton of minutes. I would have to say 400 is rich. If he hits 200, I'd be surprised.
This is a hard one to
pin. 20
10
10-minute appearances.
Yeah, that doesn't even seem like
that
it's gonna
doesn't
happen.
seem realistic.
No, I mean, is there even I don't even see a scenario where he definitely can't go a full 90 even.
He might. Oh, he physically could.
Yeah, no, he physically could, but I don't think I see, from what we've seen so far, Pascal giving Maximo 90 minutes at the 10, because that's what it would have to be.
Or the wing. I mean, he can't play on the wing.
That's fair. Barring like some catastrophic injuries, and like it would have to be more than one, I think, even.
Yeah.
To get him to that point.
100%.
So, smashing the under on that one.
Way under.
And then our last stat-based one from Blue City Radio. This one I think will be interesting to us specifically.
Justin Hack, yellow cards for 2025. So 2024, he had 5 yellow cards in 18 games. So I'm setting the line at 10.
That's so high.
He's going to serve a yellow card suspension.
He would, if he had 10 yellow cards, he would serve way too many. I think there would be conversations between him and Pascal about needing to figure it out.
I would almost, I
10
think
is a
Hack is
lot.
going to be a little bit cleaner this season. Like, he would have to be in a more confident role, in a more confident body. Like, you got to be a little less yellow happy, right? So I'm going to say under 10, but Tana definitely over 10.
Tana over 10.
Yeah.
I pray that Tana doesn't have enough
Playing time.
playing time to see 10 yellow. If Tana sees 10 yellow cards, there's going to be at least 2 to 3 games where those 10, like 2 of those 10 yellow cards are in one game.
Yeah. It almost happened already.
Yeah,
It should have happened.
He had to be yanked so it wouldn't happen.
Realistically, if we're talking real, he should have been sent off in Miami. So, like,
For that, yeah. So Hack. So where do we land on 10?
I'm under.
Under 10. Yeah, I feel like 10 is just a lot. That
is
means
a lot.
serving, because what, you get a yellow card suspension after 3? 2 or 3?
But it's like a certain span of time, I think, right?
Yeah, it might be. That just
I'm
seems
not
like
sure.
he would have to face at least like 3 suspensions if that was to be the case.
I don't
And
see that
seems-
happening from midfield.
And Sands has never really done that either.
Yeah.
And I think from midfield is a good point too, because there's less scenarios where he's needing to take a professional foul. Like,
Right.
he has guys behind him now that are going to be the ones to
Right.
take that on the chin. So
Under. Yeah, under.
And then wrapping it up with our goal differential and our conference positions and our point totals, all of these kind of play off each other. So I think it might be best if we just run conference position, both Blue Balls and Blue City set lines on those. And unsurprisingly, they found the same number. So we'll listen to those.
Conference position. Last year, as we said, we were 6th. My question is real simple. Are we going to match? 6.5 is the line.
And then we have Blue City.
Over under place in the Eastern Conference, and I'll set the number at 6.5.
So both the same.
Both the same.
And I think it's fair to say under, but
Under.
not under that line, but over the playoff line.
This is a weird one because it's because of conference position. So when you say under, you mean between 7th and
In 8th, yes.
7th and worse, or between 1 and 6.
So I guess, yeah, over
6th. We'll be
Yeah.
over 6th place.
But yeah, between 6 and 8, not above. I don't think the team is better this season than they were last season.
I almost feel like we can match that. I genuinely think 6th is probably that number. And this is like a roundabout where we estimate ourselves every year is like, 6th or better. I feel like the biggest indictment, or the thing that might hurt us the most, is that the East has gotten really good. Obviously, I think now Atlanta is a team that was a problem, or that will be a problem that wasn't necessarily a problem last year. Orlando, we're going to learn a little bit about this weekend, but it feels like they've gotten a bit stronger as well. And then obviously you kind of have your guys that are always up there giving people issues in Miami, Cincinnati, Columbus, who they're crazy now with Nancy. They were crazy before Nancy, but 6 is probably where I think we land. So I'm gonna have to go under 6th. Yeah, that's it.
That'll wrap it up.
That's the over-unders. I think we say this every year, but maybe this will be the year that at the end of the season we revisit and we grade ourselves and see what we, were or weren't correct on. But I feel even though it's early season, we have kind of a good understanding of what to expect coming up.
Yeah. We have 2 games of information, which can either lead you in, too high of a position or too low of a position. But I'm always interested to see kind of how it ends up actually shaking out. Because I think there's probably things from last year that we would be shocked by at this point. So
yeah. So we'll potentially review at end of year. We'll see, hopefully some of you guys, definitely some members of the media at the game on Saturday against Orlando. Super exciting one to be at. Obviously the home opener, and getting to see things in the flesh is always helpful because you can see a lot of the off the ball stuff that the cameras don't capture when you're just watching on Apple. So that may give us some more insight into kind of what Pascal, and to also kind of be able to be fixed on Pascal, not just when the camera pans to him, will kind of give all of us a great understanding of what his kind of presence on the sideline is.
yeah, and it's cool because I think we could fact check this, but I'm pretty sure it's an exact rematch of our first season of our first home opener was Orlando, I believe. I could be completely off.
I know it's the same. I know it's 10 years
Or maybe
to the
our
date. It's
right.
10 years to the date, but I don't know if Orlando was our first opponent, because that would
Maybe
have
we
been.
played them.
They were our expansion sister, though, if that's
Right.
the word.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe.
But I know in that first game, that was when Mix ripped that goal, first goal for the club.
And that was the Revs.
Okay, so then that would have been our inaugural home opener was the Revs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then I was wrong.
Because then I went on and copped a Mix jersey off the back of that, and then,
Yeah.
Mix's career with us panned out the way that it did.
Yeah, that's like a crazy pull type name. I feel like at this point.
Yeah.
Whereas like years ago, that wouldn't really, people would be like, yeah, of course we know Mix. But I feel like if you go around the stadium now, if you're like, what do you think about Mix Discord when he was here? People would be like, who are you talking about?
Yeah, he has kind of become like a deep cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he's on the back of my inaugural kit with that number 10. Believe it or not, he's a number 10 in our history, which is crazy. So that's 152. Appreciate you guys for listening, watching, wherever you consume all the stuff we post. We appreciate it, and follow us wherever you can search at Post90Pod.
Yeah, we'll be there.
We will appear.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys after the Orlando game.
Yeah, see ya.
Peace.
Peace.
Produced by Mr. Darko Beats.